Hi, a very common problem that people face, especially those who live in urban areas or apartment blocks, is the restriction or the inability to mount a TV aerial outside. So because you're not allowed, or it's difficult to access the roof or things like this. Okay. Now, mounting a TV aerial inside, and a typical TV aerial that we're using in an apartment block, something like this, would be something like this UHF aerial, which most people have in their houses. Okay. If this isn't an option for you, because mounting in the attic, things like this, or if you don't have an attic space, you lose a huge amount of the signal, particularly if you live in a weak reception area. So there's a new product on the market here, and it's called the DigiDome outdoor aerial. Now, most of these outdoor aerials are simply, they're no good, okay? They don't work well, but as we're going to prove with this one here, because we're not in a particularly strong reception area, this aerial actually works extremely well. So basically, we have the aerial here, which is unidirectional, okay? So you just mount it like this. It's mounted on a bracket which bolts onto the wall. We can see the bolts and plugs here. And this is the little bracket that bolts in here and holds the aerial in position like this. And you can see a picture here on the actual demonstration box of how you mount it normally in the eaves of your house like that, okay, in the apex. So what else comes in the kit? Well, inside this aerial here, we can see where it'll connect in. There's actually a mass and amplifier built into it, and this is why it's so successful, because it actually amplifies the signal and pulls in quite a strong gain. We have a power unit here that'll go inside behind your television, and a length of coaxial cable that'll run to it. Now, one thing that's not included in this kit that you might possibly want to use if you want to drill a hole in a window or something like that, or in a wall, is this thing here, which is a flat a coaxial cable, which you can actually put in your window frame and actually close the window over onto, okay? And it'll actually let the signal go through. Now, I've seen various different versions of these type of kits in the past, and where they've all failed, and the reason we've refused to stock them is two reasons. Number one, they don't work, and number two is that you need two cables, one coaxial and one that's a power unit going to the outdoor thing. This is very clever in terms of it passes the power signal through the coaxial cable, so it'll actually work extremely well, okay? So what we're going to do here is, basically when you take these connectors and this coaxial cable, you want to end up with the following two cables, okay? One cable that's going to be mounted outside and then run inside. And if we look at the two ends of this, what we want on one end is, we want a F-type connector on one end and a coaxial connector on the other. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm simply going to attach this onto here. And we simply screw this on like this, okay? And we get the other end, and we're going to connect it into the power unit. And we're going to connect it, excuse me, into the input section. So there's input and TV. So this first cable will connect in here like this. And the next part here will be, once again, cut off this length of cable that's provided. And what we'll do here is, we will actually come along and we'll put coaxial connectors on both ends of it. Now, there's sufficient connectors in this to complete this job. What we need to do then is, we need to take one end and shove it into the TV out. One is marked, so that's marked for the connection to the TV. And the next thing here is, we have simply a set-top box, a digital set-top box here. Now, you could possibly use this with an analog signal, but obviously everybody will be going for Servview and the new digital service, because that's the coming thing, okay? So we'll just connect this into the back of my Servview receiver here, into the RF in. So it pushes in here like this, okay? So now what we have is, we have the aerial plugged in, and we'll plug in the power unit. And as we plug it in here, you'll see what happens. It plugs in, and the LED light on the turns on. And most importantly, if we look over here, underneath this, it comes on. Now, we don't actually have a bracket mounted outside, but we do have a ladder, which is going to fake, we'll say, mounting this on an apex of a roof. So we're just going to hand it out here to Richard, who's outside, and he's just going to simulate that we're mounting this on the wall. He's going to just come up a ladder, and he's going to put probably a total height of about 4 or 5 meters off the ground, okay? So up he comes, and now if you look, once Richard's achieved a certain height there, suddenly the digital signal will kick in. Okay, so now we have it working absolutely perfect. Okay, so particularly if you were in large cities, and normally apartment blocks, things like this are located in this type of area, this will work. This should work reasonably well. It'll get around planning regulations and difficulties you have about mounting the aerial because it's so small and compact. And most importantly, in relation to this, you know, you can use it in combination, we'll say, with something like the window pass thing. So it makes it a very, very simple DIY job. You could possibly, if you're on an apartment block and you have the right aspect. Now, it is important, just say you are in a situation where you have aspect on your particular apartment block that's to the north and the transmitter is to the south of you. Obviously, this won't work. You need to have the general aspect where you have the aerial pointing in the correct direction for this to work well. So you can go onto the tvtray.ie map website, go into the technical section, and you'll see in terms of SareView, you can get a list of where all the transmitters are, and it'll give you a much better idea. And also, if in doubts as well, you can also, of course, look at your neighbours, look for their terrestrial aerial, see what direction they're pointing, and that's always a good indication of where your area should be pointing. So I think that's actually quite a good little product. It's very well self-contained kit. It has everything you need. The few things you might want to add on would be something like the window pass thing, and also we'll say maybe a drill bit or something like that to drill the correct size holes. But I think this is quite good.